And now, in a Philadelphia courtroom today, prosecutors laid out evidence that they say they have against the man accused of kidnapping and murdering 23-year-old Kada Scott last year.
October 18th, 2025. 300 police recruits stood shoulder to shoulder, combing through the woods near a vacant middle school in Philadelphia. They were looking for Kada Scott, a 23-year-old Penn State student who had vanished 2 weeks earlier. When detectives finally found her in a shallow grave, hidden among the trees, it marked the end of a desperate search, but the beginning of an even more haunting question. Could her death have been prevented? Before we dive deeper into this absolutely devastating case, if you're new to Mistora Crime, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our coverage of cases that demand justice. Like this video if you believe accountability matters. Comment your thoughts below and share this story because Kada's family deserves to have her voice heard.
Hi everybody, my name is Kada.
Now, let me tell you about Kada Scott. This wasn't just another missing person case. Kada was months away from graduating from Penn State University. She competed in the Miss Pennsylvania pageant. She had dreams, ambitions, a whole life mapped out ahead of her. To support herself through school, she worked the overnight shift at the Terrace, an assisted living facility in Chestnut Hill, Philadelphia. Her family described her as driven, loving, and full of life. October 4th, 2025 started like any other night for Kada. She clocked out of work at 9:45 p.m., said goodbye to her co-workers, and walked out into the parking lot. One of her co-workers happened to glance outside and saw something that would later become crucial. Kada was on her phone, and she didn't look happy. The co-worker heard her say something that sent chills down everyone's spine when they heard about it later. Kada said into the phone, "I can't believe you called me." She walked toward a dark SUV, and that was the last time anyone who cared about her saw Kada Scott alive. Her family reported her missing the very next day when she didn't come home and didn't answer her phone. That alone told them something was terribly wrong because Kada always stayed in touch. The Philadelphia Police Department launched an immediate search, but Kada had seemingly vanished into thin air. What investigators didn't know yet was that Kada's phone had stopped all network contact at 10:24 p.m. that night, just 39 minutes after she left work. Her Apple Watch transmitted its final location at 1:14 a.m. on October 5th. Then nothing. Complete silence. For 2 agonizing weeks, Kada's family held on to hope. Police brought in K-9 units from New Jersey. They shut down the entire Philadelphia Police Academy and deployed 300 recruits to search the grounds near Ada Lewis Middle School and the nearby Aubrey Arboretum. They found her phone case. They found her debit card. But they couldn't find Kada. The case made national headlines. Her face was everywhere. People across the country were asking the same question. Where is Kada Scott? Then came the anonymous tips. Someone knew something. The first tip led police back to the area around Ada Lewis Middle School, but they came up empty. The second tip was different. It was specific, urgent, and haunting. The tipster said, "Go back. She's there. Look again." On October 18th, detectives returned to that wooded area near the school. This time, they found her. Kada Scott was buried in a shallow grave, hidden among the trees. The Philadelphia medical examiner would later determine she'd been shot to death, a young woman with her whole future ahead of her, gunned down and discarded like she didn't matter. But here's where this case goes from tragic to absolutely infuriating. 3 days before Kada's body was found, on October 15th, police arrested 21-year-old Keon King from Dover, Delaware. And when investigators started digging into King's background, they uncovered something that made everyone's blood run cold. This wasn't Keon King's first time being accused of violence against a woman. Not even close. Just 9 months earlier, in January 2025, King had been arrested for kidnapping and strangling his ex-girlfriend. Let that sink in for a moment. Kidnapping and strangulation. He climbed over a fence at her home on North 23rd Street and attacked her. She survived, thank God, but King was arrested and charged with serious felonies. Prosecutors asked for bail just under $1 million, because they understood how dangerous this man was. But a magistrate lowered it to $200,000. King posted the required 10%, just $20,000, and walked free in April 2025, 6 months before Kada disappeared. Now here's the part that's going to make you angry. The charges against King for that kidnapping and strangulation were dropped. Why? Because the victim didn't show up to court. She was so terrified, so traumatized, that she couldn't face going through a trial. And instead of finding ways to support her or proceed without her testimony, the system just let Keon King walk away. District Attorney Larry Krasner later admitted publicly that his office made a mistake. He said, "We could have done better. We did not appeal the bail because it was relatively high compared to what we often get." He acknowledged that the decision not to refile charges was incorrect and that his office has to own it. But those admissions came too late for Kada Scott. During a press conference after King's arrest, DA Krasner said something even more disturbing. He encouraged other potential victims to come forward because investigators believed there were more women out there who'd been victimized by Keon King. How many women? We don't know, but the implication was clear. This man had been hurting women, and the system kept giving him chances to hurt more.
Today was the first day, the first step in accountability and getting justice for Kada Scott.
Yesterday, February 2nd, 2026, Keon King appeared in court for his preliminary hearing. It was the first time Kada's family had to sit in the same room with a man accused of killing their daughter. Can you imagine that moment? Looking across a courtroom at someone you believe murdered your child? The hearing lasted nearly 5 hours, and what came out in that courtroom was absolutely chilling. Assistant District Attorney Ashley Toxilowski methodically walked the court through the evidence, piece by piece, building a timeline of Kada's final hours. Cell phone records showed that between 9:25 p.m. and 10:12 p.m. on October 4th, Kada received a dozen calls from a phone traced back to Keon King. Text messages between them showed something that prosecutors found significant, though the defense tried to spin it differently. Kada had texted King saying, "Kidnap me again," and he replied, "Better be up too." The final text from Kada at 10:09 p.m. said, "Call me when you hear." At 10:12 p.m., King called her. That was the last incoming call Kada's phone ever received. 12 minutes later, her phone went dead. But it was a surveillance video that really told the story. Detectives testified that they'd stitched together footage from dozens of cameras across Philadelphia, creating a digital trail that followed both Kada and King that night. Detective Robert Daly, who tracked Scott's Apple devices, said something that hit hard. Everywhere this device went, Mr. King's car went. Street cameras caught a 1999 gold Toyota Camry, registered to Keon King. Traveling near the Aubrey Arboretum around the same time activity was detected on Kada's devices in that area. Surveillance from the Aubrey Recreation Center showed King's gold Camry coming and going from the parking lot the night Kada disappeared. There was also a black Hyundai Accent parked there. 2 days later, on October 6th, cameras captured two figures moving something heavy from that Hyundai. Then, in a flash of light caught on video, the car was set on fire. Investigators believe King was destroying evidence, literally burning away anything that could tie him to Kada's murder. King's defense attorney, Robert Gamberg, argued that everything the prosecution had was circumstantial. He told the judge, "There's absolutely nothing connecting this young man to what happened to Ms. Scott. The surveillance footage did not clearly identify any faces. At this level, with this quantum of evidence for this type of case, it should be discharged today." But Judge Karen Simmons disagreed. She ruled that prosecutors had presented sufficient evidence for the case to proceed to trial. Prosecutor Toxilowski pushed back against the defense's arguments, saying, "This isn't coincidence. It's corroboration." King now faces charges including murder, robbery, kidnapping, arson, tamper with evidence, abuse of corpse, and obstruction of justice. His arraignment is scheduled for February 23rd, where his attorney says he'll plead not guilty. So now we're left with the questions that keep me up at night. How many red flags does someone have to raise before the system actually protects potential victims? Keon King had been arrested for kidnapping and strangling a woman. He made bail. The charges were dropped. 9 months later, Kada Scott is dead. If that victim had been supported, if those charges had stuck, if King had remained in custody, would Kada still be alive today? Was her death preventable? And how do we look at Kada's parents and tell them that the system that was supposed to protect their daughter failed her in the most catastrophic way possible? What do you think? Could Kada's murder have been prevented? Should there be consequences for prosecutors who don't fight harder to keep dangerous people locked up? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this case made you angry, if you believe we need to do better for victims, share this video. Subscribe to Restore Crime and turn on notifications because we're going to keep following this case all the way through trial. Kada Scott deserved better. Let's make sure her story isn't forgotten.